Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Skip Alsheimer, and this is the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, fresh from an Easter weekend holiday where just goofed off, had black jelly beans and pierogies. That's what we do. Anyhow, we just watched Cornet Films Stock Can ATQ. Many of you already know where this is from. This is basically outtakes and raw footage that was shot by the Cornet filmmakers that they used for one film, and then they kind of built up these reels for use in future productions. And all of the stuff is camera original and mostly beautiful. And of course, we have no idea what's on each reel, and we can guess, but it's kind of a fun grab bag to see what's on the reels. So anyways, we watch old 16mm films here, and I appreciate your eyeballs watching this and dedicating to this during your lunch hour or whatever time it is, wherever you are. I was going to show this on Friday, but I ran out of time. This is Adventures of Bunny Rabbit.
This hole in the ground is the front doorway of Mrs. Gray Rabbit's home, deep in the woods. Inside the hole, under the ground, hidden under a soft blanket of fur, are Mrs. Rabbit's very young children. Bunny Rabbit is the first baby rabbit to come out and look for adventure. His fur is quite short. He's only about as big as a baby kitten. His ears are still short and his legs rather wobbly. Now Mrs. Gray Rabbit watches carefully over her babies while they play. There may be danger, so she keeps a sharp lookout. And now she has tucked them safely in again before going out to enjoy a dinner of juicy buds and tender leaves. The bushes hide Mother Rabbit from danger as she quietly eats. What a twitchy nose she has, and how queerly her upper lip is split. She must not stay away long, so Gray Rabbit hops back into her home to make sure that her tiny children are safe and to watch over them, especially to watch over Bunny Rabbit. One morning, as she sits guarding the door, White Rabbit, her cousin, comes hopping over from the farm. "Come with me to the farm," says White Rabbit, "and we'll have a dinner of tender green lettuce." "Lettuce," says Gray Rabbit. "How lovely! I suppose my children will be safe here. But we must be very careful. There is danger in the woods." So through the trees and bushes they quietly hop. Suddenly, "Stop," warns Gray Rabbit. "I smell our worst enemy, the fox. I must go back and guard my bunnies." So White Rabbit hops quietly back to the farm. But Gray Rabbit sits very still, hoping the fox won't find her. She pricks up her long ears, for she hears the crunch, crunch, crunch of the fox's sharp teeth as he gobbles up some bits of food he has found under the trees. Gray Rabbit is afraid, so she hides and watches the fox with her big soft eye. But now the fox sees Gray Rabbit, so she turns and runs so fast her feet fairly fly. Will she get home safely? Ah, yes, at last she is home. "Now sit very quietly, children," she warns. "The fox is coming. Don't move." Says Mr. Fox, "I smell rabbits, but this doorway is too small. I'll squeeze in, though, and these rabbits will make a fine dinner. Maybe there's another door." "Come here. Be quiet," says Gray Rabbit. "The fox may come back." And so he does, but he still can't get inside, and so finally goes away. Many days go by. Mrs. Gray Rabbit's lively young family has been growing up rapidly, and their fur is now longer and darker. They are nearly the color of the leaves in the nest. Gray Rabbit decides that it is safe to let her children come out to play, and Bunny Rabbit is first as usual and looking for adventure. Now his brothers and sisters follow him, but they stay close to the hole as yet. They don't know much about the woods. Bunny is very hungry. So Mother tells him to stay close, for she's going to show all her children where to find some juicy leaves and buds in the woods. Another Gray Rabbit has come with her children. Bunny hears his mother tell about the lettuce on the farm. And now, buds and twigs do not satisfy him. So presently, we find Bunny over by a tiny brook. Where is the farm, and where is the lettuce? Ah, there's Mr. Frog. But Mr. Frog says he doesn't know about lettuce. He likes bugs and worms best. But if Bunny still wants lettuce, he might ask the squirrel. The squirrel's here. Try a nut. Nuts are my favorite food. I crack them with my sharp teeth. And he frisks his bushy tail. Aren't they good? The squirrel asks Bunny. If you must find lettuce, though, adds the squirrel, you might ask old Mr. Turtle, who lives at the edge of the woods. The turtle's long neck stretches out from under his hard, rounded shell. Lettuce. Go across this broad field to the farm. The farmer must have lettuce growing there somewhere. So Bunny hops along, his little white tail bobbing up and down behind him. He reaches the farm at last, and there is the barn. He hurries across the barnyard and squeezes through under the door. The cows are mooing for their dinner. After his long run, Bunny is so hungry that he rushes right in and helps himself to the cow's bran. Go away, say the cows. Go away. This bran is our food. It's not for little bunnies. Go away, and they lick him with their long tongues. Poor hungry Bunny, where is that lettuce? Perhaps the little chickens are eating lettuce. But no, it is grain that the chickens eat. Baby Chick tells Bunny to ask his father, the rooster, about the lettuce. Mr. Rooster, where is the lettuce? The rooster says, go ask the puppies. Now the puppy dogs are eating their food from a dish, and Bunny is so hungry that he noses right in. Go away, says the puppy. This is our food. You go back to the woods, Bunny. So now hungry Bunny sits and watches the turkeys and the pigeons as they eat their dinner of grain. Will they tell him about the lettuce, Bunny wonders? Big fan tails the turkeys have. Bunny decides to ask Mr. Turkey. I think there's some lettuce across the barnyard, gobbles Mr. Turkey. Bunny runs over to the greenhouse. He sniffs and climbs up on the window. And there, below him, is the lettuce. But how can he get inside? The glass windows are in the way. Ah, down below he sees a hole, and he pops right through it and up among the heads of fresh green lettuce. Now for a real Bunny dinner. He nibbles and nibbles and chews and chews. My, how good the lettuce is. But what is that? The farmer. He is coming out of the barn to water his plants in the greenhouse. Will he find Bunny? Well, he sees something down under the glass, but Bunny is so busy eating he doesn't hear a thing. Very quietly, the farmer opens the window and grasps Bunny by the neck. You pesky little rabbit, I'll put you where you'll do no more harm, and he plumps him down into the dollhouse. Even though he is frightened, Bunny is still hungry, so he hops up on the chair and samples the doll's food. It tastes good, but now he thinks, I'd better get out. The farmer may come back. Can I get out through this window? Now Bunny wants very much to go, but he can't open the window. Ah, right through this door. This is the way. Now I wonder how to get back to the woods. I wonder if it's this way. No, It must be this way. Yes, there are the trees of the woods. How good it is to be back in the cool green woods again. And now, Bunny is once more with his mother. What do you think he is telling Mother Gray Rabbit? And what do you think Mother Rabbit is telling Bunny?
And it just gets cut off at the end. So we don't know what happened. I'm sure I have a better copy of this somewhere, and maybe one day we'll answer that question. So the narrator is our old friend James Brill, who did narration for Irpy and for Encyclopedia Britannica films. And we got to see what he looks like in the 50th anniversary of Encyclopedia Britannica. And he also shows up in a sound and recording film as well, where he kind of shows himself speaking, and then he shows how it's recorded. It's pretty interesting. But he didn't do work for cornet. He's pretty much just Irpy and Encyclopedia Britannica. So there you go. So on Friday, I showed what we loosely translated as "The Army is Native," a Russian educational film, and we showed Reel 1. And so here I got set up on the telecine. Over here, I have Reel 2. So get everybody turn on your Russian hats, whatever that means. All right, enjoy.
Я хочу рассказать вам, ребята, о том, как служат сегодня в армии пехотинцы, летчики, танкисты, моряки. Какое у них оружие, как они учатся с ним обращаться. Вы, наверное, уже догадались, что это воздушно-десантные войска. Они всегда появляются в тылу врага неожиданно, внезапно. Не только солдаты, танки, автомашины, орудия. Десантнику нужно быть не только смелым, но и сильным, чтобы не устать, и умелым, чтобы знать, как с оружием обращаться и как врага победить. Многие из вас думают, вот, мол, когда пойду в армию, тогда и совершу подвиг. Но ведь мало хотеть, нужно и суметь. А все ли вы занимаетесь по утрам физзарядкой? А много ли среди вас спортсменов? Быть сильными, ловкими вас научит армия. Но это не легкая учеба. И готовить себя к военной службе надо уже сейчас, в школе. Солдат должен уметь выстоять в любых испытаниях. Страшно? Еще бы не страшно. Но надо научиться побеждать свой страх. Настоящий солдат это умеет. Вот этим солдатам, наверное, страшно уходить под воду. Зато представляете, как внезапно появятся они перед врагом. А застать противника врасплох — это уже половина победы. Многое должен уметь и знать солдат. В армии учатся все. Солдаты, офицеры и даже генералы. Служба в армии требует больших знаний. Главное — изучить военную технику. Как говорят, на 5 с плюсом. Армия воспитывает настоящих людей, закаленных, дисциплинированных, знающих, преданных своей родине. Днем и ночью, на земле, в небе и на море, везде и всегда готовы мы отразить нападение врага. Посмотрите, ребята, на этот корабль на воздушной подушке. Он умеет передвигаться не только по воде, но и по земле. И по суше пройдет военный корабль, и танки по морю пройдут. Так мы учимся бить врага. Наша армия имеет самое современное оружие. Это и подводные лодки. сверхзвуковые истребители, и, конечно, ракеты. Новое, мощное оружие, самое грозное для врагов. Ракетные войска, как и вся наша армия, готовы в любую минуту отразить нападение врага. Нигде не спрятаться ему от ответного сокрушительного удара. Первое — пуск.
Слушай мою команду.
Wow. I have no idea what time period that's from. I'm guessing the 60s, but it could have been the 70s too. It's hard to say. I'm thinking probably 60s, but maybe a mixture. But the music does feel like it's 70s, and it's pretty great production background music. And I'm wondering if it really is Russian produced or if they just managed to get some production music from another country. But yeah, pretty awesome. At some point I might see if I can find more Soviet educational films, just because they're really interesting. And I do have a dental hygiene one that's really fascinating because I have so many American ones, and you can, even though you don't know Russian, you can tell what they're talking about, but there's some interesting differences to what they're saying. This is a little mildly psychedelic film called Stars Through the Seasons.
As the seasons change on Earth, the noon position of the sun seems to change. At noon on the first day of summer, the sun reaches its highest point. And then, as the months pass, the sun is lower in the sky at noon each day. On the first day of winter, the sun is at its lowest noon position. The sun's position changes with each season, and so do the positions of the stars we see. As the Earth carries us around the sun during the year, we look into slightly different parts of space each night. We can't see the stars in the daytime, but after the sun has set, the stars appear. Exactly which stars you see and where you see them will depend on three things: where you are, what time it is, and what day of the year it is. We'll see why. Let's think about just one of the stars, the North Star. We know that the North Star is almost directly over the Earth's North Pole. Light rays from the North Star spread out in all directions. But it is so far from Earth that all the rays that reach us are coming from nearly exactly the same direction. They're nearly parallel.
The distance to every star is very great. No matter where Earth is in its orbit, light rays that reach Earth from any star are always nearly parallel. Now, think of people at different parts of the world. To someone at the North Pole, light rays from the North Star always seem to come from directly overhead. He turns slowly under it. This makes all the stars he can see appear to turn around the North Star. They are all circumpolar stars. They never rise or set. Now think of a person in the middle latitudes of the Northern Hemisphere. And think again of the nearly parallel light rays from the North Star. If we take his point of view by tilting the camera, you can see that the North Star appears lower in the sky, not directly overhead. And as the rotating Earth is moving him under the stars, it seems to him that the stars are moving. During the night, only the few stars close to the North Star remain above the horizon. These are the circumpolar stars. The other stars he sees rise and set like the sun. Now picture someone on the equator. To him, all the stars but one, the North Star, seem to rise and set. The North Star rests exactly on the northern horizon. People living in the middle latitudes of the southern hemisphere can't see the North Star. Their southern sky has no pole star. It has the Southern Cross, a constellation which is nearly directly over the South Pole. Now let's return to the middle latitudes of the northern hemisphere. If we look to the south, we can follow a constellation on one of its nightly journeys across the sky. Canis Major, the big dog, is above the horizon for only about 7 hours. Its position changes during that time. So where you see it in the sky, or whether it will be above the horizon at all, depends on what time it is. So the position of the stars depends on where you are on the Earth and what time it is. Now let's see how it also depends on the day of the year. Let's picture ourselves on Earth at 4 different times during the year. A night in spring, summer, autumn, and then winter. Now, Earth is in space, and there are stars in all directions. But we can only see the stars in the part of space that is away from the sun, the part we face at night. Our view slowly changes as we orbit the sun. So the constellations we see in summer are not the same as those we see in winter. This is because a star rises about 4 minutes earlier each night than it did the night before. We can see why by thinking of 2 ways of measuring the length of a day. We usually think of a day as the time it takes for the Earth to make one complete rotation in relation to the sun. This kind of day is called a solar day. And as you know, there are about 365 1/4 solar days in a year. However, astronomers also measure a different kind of day. The time it takes the Earth to make one complete rotation in relation to a distant star. From the rising of a star on one night to its rising on the next night is called a sidereal day. There are about 366 1/4 sidereal days in one year. Let's see why there is this 1-day difference between a sidereal day and a solar day. Picture the Earth and the sun. We'll point an arrow from the Earth to the sun, and another one to a star. Here are the nearly parallel light rays from a star. Now, to represent a solar day, we'll rotate the Earth until the arrow that pointed to the sun points to it again. Suppose this is the first day of spring, March 21st. We'll notice the positions of both these arrows on the same day each month during the spring. Here is the Earth on April 21st. The bottom arrow is pointing directly at the sun, and the Earth has turned through exactly 31 solar days since March 21st. But notice the other arrow. It too has been turning, but it had made 31 turns when it was in this position. So at the moment when the Earth finishes its 31st solar day, it is already partway into its 32nd sidereal day. Keep watching the position of the upper arrow in relation to the star. By the first day of summer, it is a quarter of a turn away from the star. By the first day of autumn, we've had half a day more of sidereal days than of solar days. And by the time the year is over, we've made one full turn more in relation to a distant star than we have in relation to the sun. This difference of one extra day, when divided among the 365 1/4 days of our year, comes out to about 4 minutes. The sidereal day is about 4 minutes longer than the solar day. Because of this time difference, circumpolar constellations like the Big Dipper have slightly different positions at the same time each night. They seem to start their circles through the sky a little ahead of where they started the night before, a distance they would move in about 4 minutes. As the Earth rotates, any star in the northern or southern sky that is not circumpolar will appear to rise or set about 4 minutes earlier each night. So, for instance, suppose we're looking south on the first day of winter. Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, rises at about 10 p.m. and sets at about 5 a.m. Throughout the winter, we can see Sirius in the sky in the early evening. But by the first day of spring, Sirius is beginning to rise in the afternoon, and we can't see it. It's only visible after the sun sets, and then we see it for just a few hours before it sets. Then, through the summer, Sirius is in the sky only during the daytime, and we cannot see it at all. In the summer, the sun and Sirius are in the same part of the sky. And at night, we're turned in the opposite direction in space. By autumn, Sirius has begun rising early in the morning, a few hours before dawn. But the steady change of about 4 minutes per day, which is about 2 hours per month, continues. By the first day of winter, Sirius is rising around 10 p.m., the same as it did on the first day of winter last year, and it is visible throughout the night. Because the best time of year to see Sirius is winter, Sirius is called a winter star. Stars and constellations are often grouped according to the seasons of the year when they are easiest to see. So now let's look at the stars through the seasons. What would we see on the first day of spring? In the northern sky at about 8 in the evening, the Big Dipper is above and east of the North Star. In the part of space that is to our south, the stars of the constellation Leo are prominent. The appearance of Leo the Lion announces the coming of spring. To the north, in the part of space that we face on summer nights, the Big Dipper is high in the sky at about 8 p.m. In the southern sky, there are 3 bright stars in 3 constellations: Deneb in the Northern Cross, Vega in Lyra, and Altair in the Eagle. They form an easy-to-find triangle in the summer sky. To the north, in the part of space that we face on autumn nights, we see the Big Dipper at 8 in the evening below and west of the North Star. In the southern sky, the stars that make up the great square of Pegasus, the flying horse, are prominent. And then, on nights when we look north into space from our winter position, we see the Big Dipper near the horizon at about 8 in the evening. And in the south, the constellation Orion, the hunter, dominates the southern sky and announces the coming of winter. And so, the pattern of the stars you see slowly changes. This happens because you're an inhabitant of a spherical planet that rotates on its axis as it revolves about its central star, the sun, turning you, at night, toward different regions of space through the seasons of the year.
All right, so that was maybe not as intensive as the Soviet Army film, but people jumping out of planes and firing machine guns as they're floating down in their parachutes. But you know, you gotta break it up a little bit. Thank you, Sam, for buying some coffee. Coffee is one way that you can reward AV Geeks by caffeinating their nervous systems so they can do tedious things like rewind a film by hand, or splicing a bunch of little short films into one long one, or a lot of spreadsheet work. I do a whole lot of spreadsheet work. I work with a FileMaker database, but there's still times I bust out the Excel spreadsheet and do some tweaking and stuff like that. That's what I do a lot of. So there you go. This next film is describing an incident.
So often when we talk to people or write, we want to describe an incident, something amusing or unusual that has happened. If we tell the incident in an interesting way, if we present a clear picture of what happened, it can be a source of enjoyment to both the teller and the listener. Or it can go this way.
Say, that reminds me of what happened to us last week. You know, when Joan's father took the train. You know her. Joan Holden? Yes, I know her. Well, he lost his bag. Or, he thought he did. You see, we'd gone over to buy a magazine, and Joan was with me. And Joan's dad put down his bag when he went to buy a ticket. And, you see, Joan was helping me pick out a magazine for Mr. Holden to take with him on his trip. You see, he needed a magazine because he was going to be on the train for, 3 or 4 hours. He was going up to Williamstown on business with a Mr. Johnson, I think it was. No, Ronson, that was his name. Well, he couldn't find his bag, and the train almost pulled out without him. And then at the last moment, we found it, and he caught the train. It was real funny.
I'm thirsty. Anyone want a ball? What about you, Barb?
Nothing for me.
That was a mighty dry story, wasn't it? No interest, no colorful descriptions, not even clear what happened. Joan was there with Barbara. Let's hear her description of the same incident.
We'll talk about missing things. Did my father have a close call last Friday? Barbara Rust and I took him down to catch the train for Williamstown. The station was rather quiet and empty, the way the on ladies do.
Joan is adding color to her report. She's painting a mental picture, so you're there, at the station.
At the ticket window, a tall traveler fidgeted as the agent dawdled over his ticket. Another traveler hurried by the ticket line and arranged with a red cap to place his bag on the train. A little old lady, the grandmother type, you know, perched nervously on the edge of her seat, clutching a baggage check. And that was the setting as Father, Barbara, and I came in. Dad put down his bag and mapped out a plan. He'd go over and buy his ticket, while Barbara and I were to buy a magazine for him at the newsstand. When he had his ticket, we'd meet by Dad's bag at the end of the bench. As we headed for the magazine counter, Dad joined the ticket line. In spite of its slow progress, he figured that he still had time to make the train. The loudspeaker was just announcing, "Train for Williamstown, now loading on track 2. But the agent was making out a ticket that seemed a mile long, and he was operating with the speed of a snail. Father fumed at the delay. Barb and I were delayed, too. I found that the magazine was one we had at home, so we went back. Finally, Dad reached the ticket window. Time was short. People were already going to the train. So when we got back to the bench, I quickly traded him the magazine for a goodbye kiss. Well, he seemed to have everything he needed, so he started to go. But as he picked up his bag, he stopped short. The bag was not his. Someone had swapped suitcases. But where was Dad's bag? Had someone taken it home? Had someone checked it at the check room? And with all those bags, we'd never have time to look for it. I imagined all sorts of things that could have happened. The little old lady, for instance. Could her tired old eyes have deceived her? Could she have had Father's bag checked onto a train for her? Suddenly the loudspeaker boomed out.
All aboard for Williamstown train. Last call. Train leaving on track 2.
Dad started to go without his bag, but it contained his business papers, and he couldn't go without them. Suddenly Barb spoke. Look, a tag with the owner's name. T.J. Sweeney. He must have Dad's bag. Snatching the bag, Dad sprinted to the ticket window, interrupting another traveler. He explained the situation and asked the agent to have Mr. Sweeney paged on the loudspeaker.
Mr. T.J. Sweeney, come to the ticket window immediately. Mr. T.J. Sweeney.
And we looked around hopefully, wondering if Dad would make the train. Where was Mr. Sweeney? Who was Mr. Sweeney? Suddenly he burst through from the train. He was the tall traveler we'd seen at the ticket window. When Dad showed him the name tag, he chuckled a little embarrassed and handed over the check for Dad's bag, which a red cap had checked onto the train for him. As Dad and Mr. Sweeney ran for the train, Barbara and I were happy and relieved. And as the train pulled out for Williamstown, they were both on it. And so were both bags, with about 5 seconds to spare. Now that's what I call close.
I'll say, that sounds really exciting.
The way you tell it, it's great.
Yes, the interesting description of an incident can be important, not only to your social life, but to your correspondence, both business and personal. To articles you might write for the school paper. To themes and term papers. Almost any time you write or speak, the ability to describe will serve you well. All right, in describing an incident, what are the points to consider? First, the opening. Does it create interest? Let's go back and consider the 2 descriptions we heard. Were you interested when Barbara started?
Last week. Oh, when Joan's dad took the train. You know her, Joan Hoban. Well...
Were you more interested when Joan started?
Did my father have a close call last Friday? Barbara Rust and I took him down.
Second, is the story clear, in good order? Wasn't it confusing when Barbara skipped around?
We'd gone over to buy a magazine, and Joan was with me. And Mr. Hoban put down his bag when he went to buy his ticket. And Joan was helping me pick out a magazine for Mr. Hoban to take with him on his trip.
On the other hand, Joan carefully established the main characters and the situation in a clear order.
Tall traveler. Arranged with a red cap to place his bag on the train. A little old lady. Clutching a baggage check. Father, Barb, and I came in.
Third, are the descriptions complete, with proper detail, not too much? Did it bore you when Barbara rambled on with so much irrelevant detail?
He was going to be on the train for, 3 or 4 hours. He was going up to Williamstown on business with a Mr. Johnson, I think it was. No, Ronson, that was his name.
And yet the details she left out were so important. Remember how Joan used just enough detail to make her story complete? Details of contrast, figures of speech to build mood.
A ticket that seemed a mile long, operating with the speed of a snail. Father fumed at the delay.
Descriptive and factual details complete the plot of the story.
So we went back, checked it at the check room. We'd never have time. Tired old eyes. T.J. Sweeney. Burst through. Tall traveler.
Those are important details. Fourth, how is the ending? Does it build to a climax? Does it end smoothly and quickly after the climax?
And as the train pulled out for Williamstown, they were both on it, and so were both the bags, with about 5 seconds to spare.
Yes, Joan held suspense right to the end. Over all these considerations, is it a colorful word picture? Is the scene brought to life for your audience? Remember these things when it's your turn to describe an incident.
A colorful word picture. So I'm guessing that the narrator from this film should have talked with the narrator from the previous film, from the Stars Through the Seasons, and kind of spiced it up a little bit. Somebody suggested go-go dancers next to the telescopes. I think that's a great idea. What do we got? All right. So what's interesting is, so you had competing educational film companies, and the two big ones, Encyclopedia Britannica and Coronet, they were both based in Chicago, and they were both, like, competing for markets. So basically they would, send salespeople out to school boards and schools and big libraries and sell films. And basically, I don't know if they actually would sell like a package and say like, you're 7th grade social studies. This is what you're going to be learning. So this is what we got. So you can buy the whole thing for this amount of money. But I know that there's a lot of films that have similar titles that basically cover the exact same topics, but one is by Encyclopedia Britannica and one is by Coronet. So we showed a poultry... What was the title of that film? Let me look it up real quick. Let's Visit a Poultry Farm. And this is the other company, Poultry on the Farm. So enjoy.
It is early morning on the farm. The chickens are coming down from their roost. Farmer Brown is going into the hen house. One of Farmer Brown's first chores in the morning is to give the chickens fresh water. These chickens are called white leghorns. They're good egg layers. Now the chickens are coming out to the chicken yard for their breakfast of corn and grain. They pick up food with their sharp beaks. They also eat gravel. It helps to grind up the hard food in their gizzards. Chickens do not have teeth, so they swallow their food whole. This is a hen. Hens are females. Notice her small red comb. Because a chicken's eyes are on opposite sides of its head, it looks first with one eye and then with the other. The rooster is a male and is always taller than a hen. You can tell he's a rooster by the large red comb on top of his head and the long red wattle on his neck. Here is a rooster and a hen. Now, can you see the difference between them? Farmer Brown lets some hens sit on their eggs until they hatch. Here is the first baby chick. Soon the other chicks will be hatching. Mother keeps her baby chicks warm. In a day or so, all the chicks will be out of their nest, following mother around the yard. These chicks have been born on the farm, but most chicks are born away from the farm. The freshly laid eggs are gathered from the nest and sent to places where there are large, electrically heated incubators. The incubator looks like a large chest of drawers. It will hold hundreds of eggs at one time. The eggs are placed in the drawers where they'll stay warm like the eggs under mother hen. It has been several days since the eggs were put in the incubator. Every day the eggs are turned. Let's see what's happening inside this egg. In just 3 days, the little chick has already started to form. In a few more days, we can see a black speck, which is the little chick's eye. If you look closely, you can see the heart beating. And now, nearly 3 weeks after the egg was laid, the tiny chick is ready to hatch. The little chick is moving inside the shell. He's trying to break out. And now all the eggs have hatched, hundreds of them. Listen to the baby chicks peeping. The newborn chicks are put into cardboard boxes, which can be shipped to the farmer. This box is for Farmer Brown, who will take it directly to his brooder house. The little chicks will stay in the brooder house until they're stronger. They have a coat of soft yellow down. Now they are 2 weeks old. Look how well this chick stands and drinks. In a month's time, white feathers and little red combs will begin to appear. In 2 months' time, the chickens are almost full grown. They're ready to join Farmer Brown's flock. Farmer Brown does not only keep chickens on his farm, but he also raises ducks. This is a baby duckling. He and the other ducklings are going for their first swim. They waddle down to the water's edge as fast as their little legs will carry them. Father and mother duck go into the water first. The ducklings follow. They don't need any lessons in swimming. Ducks have oily feathers which help them float. They also have webbed feet which make good paddles. Can you see them? Mother duck scoops up food from the bottom of the pond with her broad, flat bill. Other ducks look for seeds and tiny bugs along the water's edge. Little ducklings grow quickly. These 4-week-old ducklings are almost the size of grown chickens and as noisy. Mother and father duck are always nearby, ready to protect their babies. Farmer Brown will keep his ducks until they're large enough for market. Then he'll raise another flock. Mrs. Brown keeps a few geese to sell for spending money. Here she is coming out of the goose house. What is she carrying in her basket? Why, they're goslings, only a few minutes old. Mrs. Brown has taken them from their nest so that they will not be accidentally stepped on by the older geese. She will keep them in the farmhouse kitchen until they can take care of themselves. The goslings are a week old. They're covered by yellow down, the same as baby chicks. Now the goslings are about 6 weeks old. They will not look much like their parents until their feathers begin to grow. This is the father goose, or gander. And this is mother goose. Geese are as much at home in water as on land. Their strong legs and webbed feet make them powerful swimmers. Notice how their long necks help them reach for food. Farmer Brown also keeps a large flock of turkeys. There are some baby turkeys in this cage. Shall we look inside? These baby turkeys were born in an incubator only 3 days ago. They're protected from cold or damp weather. The turkey yard has many shelters for these large birds. There are also feeding boxes. Turkeys like to roost off the ground. That is why they sit on the roofs of their shelters. These are young bronze turkeys. This is a female, or hen turkey. These are male, or tom turkeys. Listen to them gobble. Soon they'll all be large enough for the Thanksgiving table. So we have seen all the different kinds of poultry on Farmer Brown's farm. Can you answer these questions about them? What do chickens eat that helps grind up their food? How long does it take for an egg to hatch? What is on a duck's feathers that helps it to float? What kind of feet do ducks have? Why were the goslings taken out of their nests? What is father goose called? What sound do turkeys make? And the last question is, would you like to run a poultry farm of your own someday?
All right, I know I'm running over time, but somebody brought up Peeps, so I just wanted to show you what my wife and I did over Easter break. So that's what we did over Easter. Thanks for indulging us. This is what I do in my spare time. Like really goofy things. Not just the goofiness that is 16 millimeter, but the really, really goofy things. And the key to those marshmallow peeps is not to eat them. I want to eat them, and then I have one, and then I remember, oh yeah, they're gross. They're really, really gross. But thanks everybody for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock. If you like what you saw, hit like, subscribe, the notification bell, all those little tiny buttons that you can hit to say thank you for doing what you do. You can also buy us coffee, or you can go to avgeeks.com and see other things that we have online, and there's also DVDs for sale and other stuff. So everybody have a good rest of your day. As always, look to the film can, please rewind, love each other, smiley face with eyelashes, and we will see you again tomorrow. Take care.